Shalom. This is Hadassah Basaiwan, returning with the book of Revelation, chapter 16, revised. And this one is called The Song of the Victorious Martyrs. Now, what we're going to do is what I've been doing at the beginning of every new chapter. I read out the titles of the previous chapters so that you can see the sequence of events of things that have been taken place, or things that will have taken place. So, chapter 1, we have the revelation of Hamashiach. Chapters 2 and 3, the letters of judgment to the seven assemblies. Chapter 4, in the throne room. Chapter 5, who is worthy to open the book? Chapter 6, part 1, the four seals. Chapter 6, part 2, the woman and the dragon. Chapter 7, the reaping of the southern kingdom. Chapter 8, the rise of the two beasts. Chapter 9, part 1, the sifting of the northern kingdom begins. Chapter 9, part 2, the coming judgments of the two olive trees. Chapter 10, the second exodus of the northern kingdom begins. Chapter 11, the two woes. Chapter 12, the seven thunders and the seventh trumpet. This is an extension of chapter 12. It's called the second exodus of the northern kingdom according to the book of Revelation, and this is part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we have chapter 13, the judgment of the whore of Babylon begins, and this is parts 1 and 2. I did an extension for chapter 13 called the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity. That's in two parts 4, 3, and 4. And then we have chapter 14, Babylon the Great is fallen, and that is part 1 and part 2. And then we just finished chapter 15, the worshippers of the beast are condemned. Not we, I just finished. It's just one person. The worshippers of the beast are condemned. That's chapter 15. And now we are at chapter 16 with 6 more chapters to go. Hallelujah. This is an amazing study as well, going through the prophecies or this prophetic book of the end times. Wonderful study. So let's get started. It's a very short chapter, but it is still packed with a lot of information. So, verse 1, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of Alahayam. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of Alahayam. And they sing the song of Masha, the servant of Alahayam, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, Yahweh Alahayam Shaddai. Just and true are your ways, you Malak of saints. Who shall not fear you, O Yahweh, and glorify your name? For you only are holy. For all nations shall come and worship before you. For your judgments are made manifest. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was open. And the 7 angels came out of the temple, having the 7 plagues, clothed in pure and white linen, and having their breasts girded with golden girdles. And one of the 4 beasts gave unto the 7 angels 7 golden vials full of the wrath of Alahayam, who lives forever and ever. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of Alahayam and from his power. And no man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. And those 7 plagues, the 7 vials, are the last 7 plagues that will be poured out upon the earth, and it's called the wrath of Alahayam. Okay. So let's look at verse 1. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of Alahayam. Now, I know some of the Christians would look at verse 1 and they will quickly assume he saw a sign in heaven. And they will use that to mean he was seeing the stars aligning themselves and, astronomy basically. The study of stars and their meaning, their symbolism, because the stars, they have their names and they're arranged, they have their purpose, whatever, right? Same thing they did with the woman, that she was cloaked with the sun, the moon beneath her feet, and she has the 12 stars above her head. And they quickly look to the study of the stars to come to their conclusion about what this symbolized. Alahayam, he has told us in his word that he's given the Gentiles the sun and the moon and the stars to worship. So they're doing what comes natural to them. But we, the offspring of Abraham, Yatsahak and Yaokab, the worshippers of Alahayam, we don't do that. We go to him for him to explain his prophecies. We don't go to the stars to get a reading. All right? We go to Alahayam and we get his interpretation, his revelation is the correct word. We get his revelation through his Ruach Kadash. But when you're lacking Ruach HaKadash, you will turn to other means to understand the prophecies, to understand the spiritual things. So Yawachanan, he saw the sign in heaven. That's a token that is symbolic of something spiritual, symbolic of prophecy of an event that is about to take place. That's why he said it was great and marvelous. And what came after that? 7 angels. So were the 7 angels then stars that he saw in their formation in the sky and blah, 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 blah. That's the things that these Gentiles come up with. Sometimes it blows your mind. However, when we go to the truth becomes our true light, where we can see the plans and purposes of Alahayam, and we can actually walk in them, because now we can believe the truth. The truth is our light. It's our lamp unto our feet. All right? So these 7 angels, they have the 7 last plagues to be poured out on the earth. And who are they pouring those plagues upon? Whoever is left on the earth. And who's left on the earth? The Gentiles. This is their time of sifting now. The northern kingdom is safely in their land. Remember that. And they're protected by the glory of Alahayam. So nothing can come near them. The southern kingdom is in, long before the northern kingdom reached their land, the southern kingdom was taken up in chariots in third heaven. So who else is left on the earth but the wicked agents of Satan, of the Satans, and the Gentile nations? So now the plagues are being poured out upon them as their final sifting to see if perchance they will change their minds and worship Alahayam, or if they have chosen to worship Alahayam, whether or not they're going to stick to it They're not going to become fearful and change their minds, or fearful and do something in their own strength. Now, I've said in part in chapter 15 that the ones that believe in Alahayam, they will be sheltered, they will be protected. But they will only be protected for as long as they hold on to the belief and endure the torments that are coming. Because if they grow fearful, it is going to quench their faith. And when that happens, the next thing will be to take matters in their own hands, just like what happened to the northern kingdom. And I've spoken about this before. So he's going to cause these judgments to fall on the just and unjust of the Gentile nations to see what they're going to do. Now, if they believe in him, they have nothing to worry about. They have nothing to fear. But if there's fear in their hearts, that means that there's still darkness inside of them, there's still rebellion inside of them, then they're going to be caught up in these judgments and destroyed. Okay, so let's start with the reading. Now we are drawing ever so close to the completion of the judgments of Alahayam upon the earth. I can't wait. It feels like we've been in these judgments for a very long time. But it is all necessary because Alahayam is sifting everyone, even his people, especially his people. The whore has been destroyed forever, and her Satan cast into the lake of fire. So the whore, remember, was a city that was taken down, burnt to the ground. And then the land where she sat upon is going to be split in 3 parts. We're going to see that in chapter 18. Once the 7 vials are poured out. The people who worshipped her, who were aligned with her, the worshippers of the other beast, we're talking about the beast empire, number 8, and the false prophet, they're beasts too, and the image of the beast. Those are the remaining beasts on the earth now. And those that had taken the mark are all condemned. So the worshippers of the other beasts and those who had taken the mark are all condemned, and later we will see them being punished with the last 7 plagues. This means that they will not appear before Alahayam in the white throne judgment. Once they're condemned and destroyed, they are immediately cast into the lake of fire. That is his cup without mixture. All right? It is for this reason why Alahayam had poured out his wrath without mixture. All others who did not take the mark of the beast, but lived not according to the word of Alahayam, will have their day of judgment at the white throne. There he will look in his Lamb's book of life to see whose name is written there and whose name is blotted out. But more about this later. Alahayam is getting ready to release his last 7 plagues upon the earth, which will come fast and furious as they are poured out. The end is almost here, where Hamashiach is set to return to the earth as Hamalak, the king, our king, Malakayam. Malakana. Malakayam is kings. He's not plural. He is singular, but he is our king, Malakana. He will be returning with his saints, the southern kingdom, who were taken up to 3rd heaven in chariots. Soon we will be reunited with the northern kingdom in our land, with Hamashiach as Malakana, our Malak, and high priest forever. After these last 7 plagues, there will be a time of peace for 1,000 years with the true government, pure worship, holiness, and righteousness reigning on the earth. We will look deeply at this wonderful time for all Gentile inhabitants who have made it through thus far, and for the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. So when we get to is chapter 19, we will be that will be the beginning of the new beginning, so to speak, the beginning of the end for all evil, but the beginning of the beginning for the righteous, whether of Yashraal or of the Gentiles. Now, before we read verse 2 of chapter 16 revised, I want to say that Alahayam, he's been storing up his wrath all these generations, from all the way back to the time when Adam and Hawa were in the Garden of Eden, when the Satan Gadriel tempted Eve and she fell to his temptation and then passed it on to her husband Adam. That's when the wrath of Alahayam began. Now we can say technically it began when Satan fell. Technically, yeah. But let's deal with us. He's dealing with us as people that he placed on this earth to have dominion on the earth. And our forefather Adam and Hawa succumbed to the temptation of Gadriel, the Satan, or Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. And since then, mankind have been through the works, the evil works of these Satans and these fallen angels, have been seeking to take over the heavens, to destroy what Alahayam had created. That's why he sent the flood, because of what the Nephilim were doing, what they did. And he preserved only the animals that he created, plus the 8 souls that were not, that, well, the sons of Nach and their wives. All right. He preserved them. Only 8 people out of all the people that were living at that time, because they were all doing the wickedness. And even after the flood, we see the rise of the Nephilim spirits, because they were not cast into the pit, because they are hybrid. They're both angel and human. So they were left to roam the earth, and they became part of Satan's army to help bring about more evil upon the earth. And this is the evil, this is the darkness that we have been fighting against from the moment we were born. The decisions that are placed before us to either be obedient to Alahayam or be disobedient. When we're young and we don't know any better, or we're just ignorant of the truth, of course we choose the darkness, because that is the path of least resistance. When you decide now to choose the path of righteousness, you're going to come against a lot of resistance from these Satans and the fallen angels and the Nephilim spirits. And that's why a lot of people say, well, I don't want this much trouble in my life. Let me just take the path of least resistance. So the wrath of Alahayam had been storing up for all these generations. He is going to deal with the Satan. In fact, he already have dealt with what he's going to do with the Satans and the Nephilim spirits, the fallen angels. All right? He already planned to cast them all into the lake of fire. But in the meantime, he's using them to sift out the inhabitants on the earth, Yashraal and the Gentile nations. He could easily have done it a long time ago, but no. When he set the ball in motion, he does not stop it. He controls what these Satans and fallen angels can and cannot do, but he does not stop this ball in motion. Because he had a plan from the very beginning. He knew Adam and Hawa were going to sin. He knew everything before he even created it. He knew it. He knew what was going to happen. But he already had a plan to bring it all back to the Garden of Eden, to bring us all back to the Garden of Eden, to be in perfect harmony with him. It's a long path. It's been a long journey for Yashraal, the 12 tribes. So now we're coming to the very end of the journey. And this is the cup of Alahayam that is being filled up with his wrath for all the evil that has been done upon the earth to try to destroy his people, to destroy his creations, the things that he's created in the heavens and the earth, the animals and what have you, corrupting what they didn't destroy or what they can't destroy. This is his wrath. And the reason why he's pouring it upon the inhabitants, the Satans, the devil, the demon, the unclean spirits, all of them, their fate have been sealed from day one. But the inhabitants of the earth have been given a choice. And that choice is, if you do not obey Alahayam, you will face his wrath. But if you obey him, yes, the path is a difficult path, but he will guide you through it. Most importantly, his people. Gentiles, well, they're going to have to wait to the end to be guided by him. All right? He already knows who of the Gentiles belong to him, and he has preserved them thus far. So don't think that they're out of luck. There's no such thing. But they have to go through the worst of it all for all the things that they have done against him and even against us. And the reason why I say against us is because if you were not one to help Yashraal, then it means that you are not for us. However, you did not lend your hand to try to destroy us or persecute us, but you didn't help us. The Gentiles didn't help us. So this is the reason now Alahayam is going to complete this marvelous judgment with the 7 plagues, the vials, the bowls filled with his wrath. And when you look at each bowl, everything that is being poured out was done against us or our land. A lot of it is about blood. Why? Because our blood was shed by the inhabitants on the earth that hated us. Okay, let's look at verse 2 of Revelation chapter 16 revised. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of Alahayam. Now, this is a beautiful image. This is the throne room of Alahayam. You see, they're not words that can describe the throne room of Alahayam. You can't even find words to describe him. But with their limited words, this is what Yawachanan saw. The throne room, the sea of glass, meaning it is a vast area. It's like a platform. Think of a stage, a platform. But it is like glass. And at the same time, with fire, that's the glory. That is glory. Whenever you see fire in the throne room of Alahayam, that is glory. So the massive platform that has fire mingling in it, that is the throne room. And then in the throne room, we see a group of people. And these are the ones that had gotten the victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name. So let's read what is written here. The time have come where the Northern Kingdom martyrs are about to receive their reward because they are the overcomers. And how do we know that this group of people are the Northern Kingdom? Because only, first of all, the martyrs, and I've said this before, this is the highest calling for anyone whose life has been taken because of the testimony of Alahayam, the testimony of Hamashiach. The highest calling is to be a martyr, because Hamashiach was a martyr, was he not? Yes, he was. He was murdered for who he is. These ones that were slaughtered, martyred, they were martyred because they resisted the beast. Who is this beast? The New World Order, number 7. This is the technology-based empire. It cannot be number 8 because the Northern Kingdom was already in their land when the number 8 rose again. This empire rose again. So this is the last empire, which is the technology-based empire, the New World Order, that will come against the Northern Kingdom. And they're the ones that are going to prevail against the Northern Kingdom, warring against them and killing a lot of them. Some of them are going to be the rebels. They still took up arms. That's okay. But the martyrs are the ones that have given their hearts back to Alahayam. They have repented of their idolatry. And they took up arms because that is what they had to do. They had no choice in the matter. The Southern Kingdom had to take up arms against the Roman Empire back in the day. Now this is their turn to take up arms to fight. They're not going to prevail, and it's going to be a war that's going to last for 3.5 years, because Alahayam is going to bring an abrupt stop to this empire with the great earthquake in seal number 6. Seal number 6, the great earthquake, is going to end technology forever. These are the ones that resisted the beast, resisted taking the toxin, resisted worshiping the image of the beast. They fought against it, and they were killed. And this is them here now before the throne They're before the throne. This is the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom martyrs are under the altar in the throne room, but these are the ones standing before the throne. And they have the harps of Alahayam. Martyrs are given harps because they have a song to sing. Okay, let's look at the rest of the reading. They rejected the toxon. We know what the toxon is, the devil juice that they've been trying to cause everyone on the earth to take, but many of us have resisted. And it's going to come again. Don't let this, what is happening today, fool you that it is over. This is not over. They are setting the stage for the next toxon to come out. They are setting the stage for another situation. I have to be very careful with this algorithm. But there is going to be another situation where they're going to have some serious mandates in place. And it's coming fast and furious. They're putting all the agendas in play, talking about digital this and digital that. All right? So life will never go back to normal that we knew before 2019. And that wasn't even quite normal to begin with. But as normal as it was before all of this happened, it's coming. Because Alahayam wants to put an end to wickedness, wants to put an end to evil, so that he can destroy the wicked on this earth, so that he can renew it. Because in the end, he is going to renew the earth. We're going to have a new earth. The NWO, sorry, let me read that again. They rejected the toxin, whether the earlier one or the later one, because there's another one that's coming. Another poison is coming. The NWO, the Seventh Empire, will want everyone to have their toxin or they will be killed. The mark of the beast is this toxin. Don't let them fool you and tell you, oh, it's a chip. These people, they like to play. That's what they do. They like to play. They play games. And here's the thing. There's talk about this chip in the hand to make you comfortable with the toxin. Well, if the toxin is not it and the chip is the mark of the beast, then I don't have anything to worry about the toxin. If I take the toxin and keep my job or get any handouts from the people that be, the powers that be, that's okay as long as I don't take the chip. Chip in the hand or the chip in the brain. As long as I don't take those two, it just proves that the toxin is not the mark of the beast. And that is how they're going to trap a lot of people. Don't take anything. Don't take the chip. Don't take the toxin. Don't let them put anything inside your bodies. Your body is a holy tabernacle of Alahayam. He created it so that he can come and dwell in it. And when you go, you put these poisons in your body that transform you from the image that he created you to be in, which is his image, into the image of the beast, then he wants nothing more to do with you. So why go there? Why take a chance for a job? Why take chance for money that is absolutely, it's not worth anything. It's not worth your life. Because when you do, take it, what's going to happen? You're going to be cut off from Alahayam. Your name is going to be blotted out of the Lamb's Book of Life. And you're going to live in eternity in damnation. So tell me, is it worth it? Is it worth it to keep a house? Is it worth it to keep a job? All you have to do is go and Google the side effects that people have been experiencing and see their quality of life. Some of them are lingering in a lot of pain and torment and regret. But it is too late. Do you want to take that chance for money? Do you want to take that chance for a job? And a lot of these people that are suffering right now, and some of them have died, they did it to keep the job. And then in the end, they still can't work. And do you think they're going to get some sort of package? A few people have received some sort of package from, the poisoners. I don't know what to call them. The manufacturers of the poisons. They receive some, a little bit of money. Money can't make your life any better. It cannot give you a better quality of life. Only Alahayam can. Right? In the end, the money is going to run out because the side effects are so extreme that it's never going to go away. So even if they give you $1 million, trust me, that $1 million, that's not going to help you in the long run. It might help you buy a few things now, but that money is going to eventually run out. Unbelievable. The things that people would do for money to maintain their lifestyle. And none of it has to do with Alahayam. That's the sad part of it all. The mark of the beast is this toxin. I don't care what anybody says. It's creating a network within your body. Anything that changes you from the inside on a cellular level is demonic and pure wickedness. It's an abomination. You become an abomination before Alahayam because you're not who He created. And those changes, sorry, let me read that again. The mark of the beast is this toxin that changes those who take it from the image of Alahayam to the image of the beast. Within this toxin is a number, as everyone who have taken it will have their own identifying number, which is the number of the beast, the digital ID that they want everyone on this earth to have. And that will be required for any transaction on the earth. I know people have been going around with their smartphones and they have this app. It's almost like one of those QR code like apps. And you go into a crowded area and you see all these numbers popping up. These are the numbers that are attached to whomever took the toxin. Every single person have their own number. And this thing is so serious, right? That even your appliances, this one man showed how his car, because the cars now have a lot of computering stuff in it. I'm not technology. I'm not into technology, so I will call it whatever I call it. But it has a lot of computer stuff in it. And you can link your phone to your car and what have you. The car was trying to link with him. And how he knew it? Because it called the name of the manufacturer of the toxin that he took. It showed it, the name of the manufacturer and the number. And that number is his number. His television in his house was doing the same thing too. In fact, though it wasn't his house, he went into what do you call those places now? A place that sells television. I'm losing my train of thought here. He went into a place that sells televisions, you know, those flat screen TVs? And you should see the televisions all trying to link with him. Are you trying to tell me that the toxon is not the mark of the beast? Come on, people. You can't be that desperate, one, to believe this, desperate to hold on to a job to believe this lie that it's not. And you can't be that stupid. You can't be that foolish. You cannot be that ignorant to hear all the different things that are happening to people with this stuff, what they're pulling out of the veins of these people that look nothing. It's supposed to be a kind of a blood clot, but it's not. When you look at a clot, is the consistency of like liver, that not, because liver is a little stronger, but it's softer. But these things that the doctors are pulling out of the veins of young people and whatnot, and cadavers and what have you, oh my goodness, those aren't clots. Those are networks. And they're strong because you can pull them out and they're a couple feet long. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Don't take the toxon. Don't take anything that they give you. If you lose your job, so be it. If you trust in Alahayam, then you don't have anything to worry about. That's why I said to people before, if you got a house and you're worried about your mortgage not being paid, get rid of the house. The house is becoming a hindrance between you and your relationship with Alahayam. Same thing with your job. Start making preparation for what they're coming with tomorrow. They already made the plans of making every single person have an ID, a digital ID. What do you think is going to cause us to have a digital ID? Huh? All right. Get rid of useless assets. Get rid of them now that you can. You got gold, sell it. You got a fancy car, sell that too. Get rid of the things that are making you, the things that are causing you to make the wrong choices in order to make money. The Northern Kingdom, they made the choice. We don't want it. And we're going to try to fight to help our families and our friends. And if we die, we die. And look what happened to them. They came back and now they're standing before the throne. And the other ones that were rejecting Alahayam, some of them went and took the toxon and they got killed off anyway. Because the Satans, they don't want us. You think you can sell out and Satan is going to welcome you with wide open arms and give you anything? No, he's going to kill you anyway. He just wants you to take the poison to be rejected. That gives him a measure of pleasure to see that the beloved Yashraal of any one of the 12 tribes come to him through his agents and take his toxon. It gives him a great measure of pleasure. And then he'll turn around and kill you. He doesn't want alliances with Yashraal. Never did and never will. So you see the ones that you think are Yashraal walking around and you know, with bling bling and positions and power and what have you, they're not us. They're not our people. They look like us, but they're not our people. All right, let's move on. The Northern Kingdom martyrs received their harps, which is symbolic of their victory and part of their reward, to sing their song of victory before the throne in the throne room of Alahayam. They have gotten the victory, so he gave them harps to sing their song. This is a very high honor as they're standing before him, receiving their honor of martyrdom. Similarly, like the Southern Kingdom martyrs that are under the altar in the throne room, they too received part of their reward at the time of the fifth seal. But they all still have to wait for Alahayam to avenge their persecutors on the earth. So he's given them a part of their inheritance. The righteous the righteous martyrs of the Southern Kingdom, they receive their robes and they're told to rest for a little while. And now the Northern Kingdom martyrs have received their harps. Revelation chapter 4 verse 6. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne were four creatures full of eyes before and behind. So this is what the throne room looks like. Revelation chapter 6 verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Alahayam and for the testimony which they held. So this is the Southern Kingdom. And this was the fifth seal. And this, even though this was happening in the heavens, where the fifth seal is to show Yawachanan, who is John, the souls of the martyrs of the Southern Kingdom under the altar in the throne room of Alahayam, is to allow us to know that simultaneously what is happening in the heavens was occurring on the earth. The Northern Kingdom was fighting for their lives and the lives of their loved ones. Verse 10. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Yahweh, holy and true, do you not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto them, that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren. So who are the brethren of the Southern Kingdom but the Northern Kingdom? Who are fellow servants along with them? The Northern Kingdom. That should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. So these ones under the altar were killed for their testimony that they held, the testimony of Alahayam that they held. And so these ones that were under the altar were told to wait, because there's a number of your brethren that must be fulfilled. As you were killed, they must be killed, and there's a number that must be fulfilled. And that is prophecy. So that prophecy was completed when the sixth seal, which is the great earthquake, occurred to stop the NWO the seventh empire, the technology-based empire, stopped it in its tracks and destroyed all of its technology. It could not function anymore, and it had to go underground. The Southern Kingdom martyrs will receive their white robes at the fifth seal. Their robes of righteousness, showing us that they will receive a portion of their reward with more to come. So what's happening now in the heavens, you have the martyrs in the throne room of Alahayam waiting to be restored to life, to receive their resurrection to life. That's another award. No, not award. That's another reward that they will receive, which will be eternal life. All right. So that's why I said only a portion of their reward was given to them, waiting for the rest of the reward that will be coming later. And they will receive their resurrection to life when Hamashiach returns to the earth and the last Satan is bound and put in the abyss, then they are going to come back to the earth. They're going to be restored on the earth. But when we get there, we'll see that. In the meanwhile, they're told to rest and wait for their brethren who will be martyred like they were. This will be the northern kingdom that will be martyred in the NWO, which is the New World Order, Seventh Empire, that will fight against them and prevail against them. There will be a terrible war between these two, and it will be such a terrible war that it is called the time of Yaakob's trouble by the prophet Jeremiah, who is Jeremiah. So let's look at Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, that so that none is like it. It is even the time of Yaakob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So when it looks like they're going to lose the war, Alahayam will save them. He's going to cause his son to break the sixth seal, which will usher in the great earthquake, which will stop this empire in its tracks. Daniel chapter 7 verse 21, I beheld, and the same horn, which is the false prophet, made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So the NWO is the empire, and the false prophet is the emperor. All right? He's also called the anti-Messiah. It's one and the same. They're not two separate beings. Verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of Alahayam, who is the highest, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Revelation chapter 13 verse 6, and the beast empire opened his mouth in blasphemy against Alahayam, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto them to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over kindreds and tongues and nations. So this is the beast empire, the false prophet. They all will war against the saints who are the redeemed of the northern kingdom, the ones that will repent of their idolatry and return to Alahayam. But now it has only just begun for them. We see that the northern kingdom had to go through their time of martyrdom to fulfill the prophecy from seal number 5. There is a number of deaths through martyrdom that has to be fulfilled for the next event of judgment to take place. We also see that there's still a separation between the two kingdoms even after they died and are in heaven in the throne room. The southern kingdom martyrs are under the altar in the throne room, while the northern kingdom martyrs are before the throne. So they're still separated. Soon they too will be reunited as one kingdom before they receive the rest of their reward, which is the resurrection to eternal life. So now let's look at verses 3 and 4 of Revelation chapter 16 revised. And they sing the song of Masha, the servant of Alahayam, and the song of the Lamb, saying, great and marvelous are your works, Yahweh Alahayam Shaddai. Just and true are your ways, you Malak of saints. Who shall not fear you, O Yahweh, and glorify your name? For you only are holy. For all nations shall come and worship before you, for your judgments are made manifest. Now the song of the redeemed martyrs of the northern kingdom are given to them as their song of victory, to sing before the throne, before Alahayam, Yahweh. It is interesting to note that it is called the song of Masha, And at the same time, the song of the Lamb, who is Hamashiach. There's more to learn about this song, as it is no ordinary song. This song was first described as the song of Masha. So let's look at who Masha was. Masha was the servant of Alahayam, who was used to deliver Habanai ol Yashraal from Matzorayam. So the children of Yashraal were led out of Egypt by Masha, and that was in the first Exodus. He was also the servant that was used to bring the law of Alahayam to his people. But also important to note is the meaning of the name of Masha, which means drawn or drawn out. Therefore, Masha represents to us deliverance and salvation, because he was the one who was the deliverer of Habanai ol Yashraal, the 12 tribes, and they found salvation. That's their deliverance was their salvation. From whom? Matzorayam, because they were heavily persecuted in that land. They were slaves and they were being tormented. So Masha represents to us deliverance and salvation. As Habanai ol Yashraal were saved from the house of bondage. But if we should go deeper, we will also realize that Masha was drawn out of water, the name that was given to him from the princess of Matzorayam, when she found him in an ark in the water. Now, water is used prophetically by Alahayam to relate to us his idea of either a form of baptism, like when they went through the Red Sea, when Habanai ol Yashraal passed through the Red Sea, or to be drawn out of multitudes, as in the prophecies that speak about the rise of the beast empire. So sometimes waters represent a form or type of baptism, and then there's another time when you have to look at it in its context. It means coming out from multitudes, from peoples. Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now I'm using the scriptures according to the Bible, just to prevent confusion. All right? Because if I use it according to my revision, then you wouldn't know where to find these scriptures. But if you want to follow along in the Bible, I use the Bible scriptures. Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which you saw, where the whore sits, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So sometimes when you see waters, it is pertaining to a form of baptism, or is pertaining to coming out of peoples. Now the word of Alahayam is prophetic. Therefore we need Ruach HaKadash to give us his revelation of these prophecies. They are not always straightforward, and until he brings the truth, which is light, we will remain in the dark as to understanding the mind of Alahayam. Masha was very important in delivering Habanai ol Yashraal, that is the children of Yashraal, from the house of bondage, which is Matzorayam, Egypt. Therefore, Yashraal was drawn out of the water. Spiritually, like Masha was drawn out of physical water. So they were drawn out of Matzorayam as a way to show how they were drawn out of peoples. They were drawn out of the people of Matzorayam to be separated unto Alahayam. Hence, we can understand that the song which the martyrs of the northern kingdom will sing will be that of gratitude for being drawn out of their water, because they too were assimilated and dwelt amongst the Gentile nations, mostly in Africa. Alahayam drew them from the different countries in Africa, and possibly scatterings of different places other than Africa. But the majority of the northern kingdom is in Africa. And that's why I don't understand why our people are still fleeing to Africa and calling it their home, when he's going to bring our people out of Africa to our land. It's different when you flee to be within his borders, which part of it is touching Africa. But it's another thing when you flee and you go to like South Africa and those kind of places and call that your land. It's not your land. It's not our land. And you're going to get trapped there and you're going to be killed off there because Alahayam did not lead you there. People are drawing their own conclusions because they look at a map and they see the name Jerusalem and they see the name Eden and they call it their country, their land. All right. So just like our brethren were drawn out of Matzarayam, so will be the 9.5 tribes will be drawn out of their peoples, out of waters, out of multitudes. All right. Masha was not the one who will draw them out of these countries, but it will be Hamashiach. Hence the reason why the song that they will sing will also be the song of the Lamb. Now, Masha, you see, you have people out there talking about they're the leaders of the 12 tribes. They're going to lead the 12 tribes into the wilderness. There are people that believe that they are the deliverer for the 12 tribes of Yashraal to lead them into the wilderness on a second Exodus. Now that is so far from the truth, and people actually believe it, and they are following along with these people because when you have someone who is blind and you of yourself, you're blind too. So obviously you can't see how erroneous this person is because you're also blind. It's the blind leading the blind. And what's going to happen? You're going to fall in the ditch, just like what Hamashiach said. Do you think after what went down with the 12 tribes of Yashraal, that Alahayam is going to raise up another man to lead his people into the wilderness? No, thank you. 12 tribes aren't going into the wilderness, only the northern kingdom. And he's not going to use a man, he's going to do it himself, the Lamb. That's why they're going to sing his song as well. Masha's song will be due to the first deliverance of their forefathers that was passed on to them, because the law of Alahayam is still our light. Masha brought that light from Mount Sinai, and this is what we have even today. But Hamashiach will be the deliverer for the northern kingdom for their second Exodus. And he is the light, the very light that Masha brought to our forefathers in the wilderness in the first Exodus. And now he will be the light for the second Exodus, hence his song. And he is also the deliverer and the regatherer of the southern kingdom. Who do you think is going to be showing his face in the clouds after the 3 days of darkness? Hamashiach. He is the one who's going to send his angel to regather his people from the four corners of the earth. So he is the deliverer for the southern kingdom first, and then he will be the deliverer for the northern kingdom. He also represents the lamb that was slain for us. Therefore, sacrifice, redemption, and salvation, but this time from the wrath of Alahayam. So Hamashiach represents our eternal sacrifice, our eternal redemption, and our eternal salvation from the wrath of Alahayam because of all the things that he did for us. He brought the light to the world when he was here walking in the world, and he passed it on to his apostles who wrote the manuals. That's where the light is hidden, in the manuals, the letters, the epistles, the good news, the gospels. And then he released Ruach HaKadosh to reveal the light to his people. All right? So Hamashiach is detrimental to our salvation from the wrath of Alahayam. Because, let me tell you something. If we are not walking in the ways of Alahayam, if we are not walking in obedience to his commandments, he is going to destroy us. There are only two people when you look at it. Either you're walking in righteousness of Hamashiach, of Alahayam Hamashiach, or you're not. Either you're walking in holiness or you're not. Either you're walking in obedience or you're not. That goes for the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom, and the Gentiles on this earth. And when you walk in disobedience, you will face the wrath of Alahayam. He's dealing with the southern kingdom first, and he's sifting us. Even as I speak, he is sifting us. And those who will not be regathered by the chariots will be doomed for destruction. I did a study. So far, it's a 5-part series. It was originally 3 parts. In fact, it was originally 1, but then now it's increased to 3. Now it's increased to 5. And I explained in great detail how the 3 days of darkness is going to play out. Please go and watch that series. It's amazing. It is mind-blowing. Only if you want to know the truth, that is. Some people can't handle the truth. The truth is a bitter pill to swallow. But here's the thing. What Hamashiach did for us on the stake when he died and shed his blood, it is to protect us from the wrath of Alahayam. When we receive Hamashiach and all that he did for us on the stake, then we are saved from the wrath of Alahayam. And that's why the northern kingdom, the righteous remnant of the northern kingdom and the righteous remnant of the southern kingdom will be protected from the 7 vials that are going to be poured upon the earth. Why? Because salvation was never intended for the Gentile nations. It was only intended for the 12 tribes of Yashraal. Sorry to say this. Sorry to burst anybody's bubble. Because a lot of Christians believe that they're going to be spared from the wrath of Alahayam. Nothing could be further from the truth. If you are worshiping other gods, you're worshiping Jesus, you're worshiping God, you're worshiping Lord, you're worshiping all pagan gods, how can you not face the wrath of Alahayam? If it was so strict for us to make sure that we are walking in obedience, complete obedience, how much more for the Gentiles? There's not one law for you, for them, and there's not another law for us. There are not 2 laws. There's one law that everyone has to follow. So Hamashiach, if we do not receive him, we will face the wrath of Alahayam. Masha led Yashraal from physical slavery. Hamashiach will deliver us from spiritual slavery, including the northern kingdom. When our forefathers were in the wilderness, they couldn't get over Matzorayah because they were still slaves in their minds. And that's why their children who never seen the slavery in the land of Matzorayah, they were the ones who went in to the promised land. At the end of the day, we will all be singing our song of redemption to Alahayam, Yahweh, and to the Lamb. Oh yes, we're all going to have a song. We're all going to have the song. After going through all that we've been through our entire life, you bet we're going to have a song. a song of the victorious, because we've pressed in and pressed on. It's not easy to walk this path. And if you're faint of heart and you're fearful of everything, fearful of your shadow, you're not going to make it. All right. So we see that there is so much to unpack when it comes to the song of the redeemed, of the martyrs. One last thing to consider and understand. Masha also stands for the Old Covenant, through which the blood of bulls, lambs, and goats were used in sacrifices. And Habanai Ol Yashraal were temporarily atoned for their sins. But Hamashiach is the mediator of the new covenant, as he is the lamb that was slain, and his blood atones us eternally. Thereby we can enter into the new covenant with Alahayam, which of itself is still the old, still the same laws and commandments that are in place. The commandments didn't change, the laws didn't change. But what makes it new is the source of the blood and the sacrifice. Hamashiach became the perfect sacrifice and died only once. So the old covenant was the blood of the bulls and the lambs and the goats that were used. The new covenant, the one lamb, the perfect lamb, became the perfect sacrifice. And that is Hamashiach. Oborai, chapter 8, verse 1, the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, verse 1. Now of the things which we have spoken, this is the sum. We have such a high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens. Who is our high priest forever? That is Hamashiach. He's now everything to us. He's not only the lamb that was slain, he's also the high priest. He is also the temple not made with hands. He's the veil. He's the door to the sheep. He's everything we need. And yet people want to reject him. Verse 2. A minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which Yahweh pitched, and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. We already had the priesthood. And if they were sufficient to do what Alahayam intended to do, all right, then he wouldn't have sent his son. There would have been no need to send his son. But what he had in place for our forefathers that came out of Matzorayim was a temporary solution to a big problem. The problem of salvation, the problem of sin, atonement. Salvation from his wrath. So he had intended to send his son, because his son came on the earth in the likeness of the brethren, because he came through our lineage. He was perfect because he was without sin. He had no sin nature. He was without guile. So he was a perfect man that was born. And so when he died, he was the perfect sacrifice. No one could have done it any better than him. And so we no longer need to atone ourselves with the blood of bulls anymore. Bulls and sheep and goats. Because we have the eternal atonement blood of Hamashiach. And when we're regathered, he's going to remove the sin nature so that we will no longer be marred by this sin nature. All right. What a wonderful ending to all of this. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right. Let's see here. So if you were here on earth, right? So verse 5. Who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Masha was admonished of Alahayam when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, said he, that you make all things according to the pattern shown to you in the mount. So Masha saw the true tabernacle with all its furniture in or furnishings in heaven when he went up to the mountain those 40 days and 40 nights. Verse 6. But now has he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much more he is the mediator of a better covenant, speaking of Hamashiach, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yashrael and with the house of Yahweh. The house of Yashrael, that's the northern kingdom, and the house of Yahweh is the southern kingdom. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers. Speaking of our forefathers, when they were in the wilderness, when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Matzarayam, because they continued not in my covenant. And I regarded them not, said Yahweh. He was done with them. He cut them off. He destroyed them in the wilderness with the exception of 2. All right. Verse 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Yashrael after those days, said Yahweh. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them Alahayam, and they shall be to me a people. That is the covenant right there. To us, he is Alahayam, and to him, we are his people. And to be his people, we have to walk in his laws and his commandments. It's not just to repeat them, but you have to walk in complete obedience to them. That includes keeping his Shabbat on the correct day. I made a promise and I will keep to it. I will get to it. I will get to it. I have to do a calendar. For anyone who's interested in keeping Shabbat on the correct day. Because Saturday is not our correct day. It's not always on a Saturday. Maybe twice in a year, we'll have Shabbat Friday evening to Saturday evening. I'm going to do another presentation about the Shabbat, and I will include in it the calendar. I'm going to do a 12-month calendar. Right? Because I do them for myself. I just need to take the time to plug them into a chart and present them for you. And then you can just download them or write them off or do what have you. So that you can keep Shabbat on the correct day. Sunday is the day of the sun and Saturday is the day of Saturn if you're going according to the Gregorian calendar. But if you're going according to his calendar, even if it falls on a a Saturday evening to a Sunday evening, or Sunday evening to a Monday evening, if it falls on a Friday evening to a Saturday evening, you're not going according to the Gregorian calendar. So it doesn't matter if our 7th day, our Shabbat, falls on any of those days. But it does matter when you're following the Gregorian calendar. Because if you're celebrating every week your Shabbat, Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, then you're calling on holy day a holy day, and you're neglecting the holy day and calling it an unholy day, and you're breaking his commandment. You're breaking his law, because that's part of the 10 laws that he's given to us that were written in stone, by the way. And these are the same laws that he wants to write in our hearts and in our minds. So don't think that there are variations. Oh, I have to work so blah blah blah. No, there are no excuses. Not at this stage of the game, but it's not a game, but at the stage where he's getting ready to regather us. And you're still saying, oh, I still gotta work. Okay, well, you keep doing what you're doing and we'll see how it's gonna work out for you in the end. Verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he said, A new covenant he has made the first old. Now that which decays and waxed old is ready to vanish away. So the old covenant has nothing to do with doing away with the laws and the commandments. No, he did not abolish the laws and the commandments. He fulfilled them. Hamashiach fulfilled them. But what has been abolished is the killing, the sacrifices of bulls and goats for the atonement of sin. That was changed. That has been abolished. That is called Old Testament. Old covenant. The new covenant is the blood of Hamashiach. Now, I want to say this, verse 11, when it talks about, and they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me. That will happen when we purpose in our hearts, and it starts here now, to walk in his commandments, to walk in his laws. There will be a time when he is literally going to write it on our hearts and in our minds. But the beginning of that has to do with us purposing in our hearts and in our minds that we will keep Shabbat, we will eat only clean foods, no unclean foods. We will do the things that he said in his word. All right? Every person has that responsibility. And this is under the new covenant. And if we do not abide by his laws and his commandments, then we are in danger zone where we will have to face the wrath of Alahayam, because we're rejecting his atonement. We're rejecting his son. We're rejecting our atonement. In fact, it is our atonement. And the day will come when we will all know Yahweh for ourselves. It is good that there are teachers out there, the ones that are leading you to Hamashiach and to the light and to the truth and to Yahweh. Not the ones that say, come follow me and do what I say and do as I do. We're not talking about those false leaders. We're talking about the ones that want you to stand on your own 2 feet. To know Yahweh for yourself. To walk in obedience always to his word, to his commandments, to his laws, to his statutes and his judgments. To always be obedient to him. Those kinds of teachers. It's good to have those teachers, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to learn the truth for ourselves. To go before Ha'abba and say, give me my daily bread, please, Father. And he will do it. He will do it. Please bear in mind that the Old Covenant is called such because of the ordinances of slaughtering animals to shed blood in order that Yashraal was atoned, speaking of the 12 tribes, and the covenant was maintained. That's the Old Covenant. The substance of the covenant is still the same, but the new covenant is presided over by Hamashiach, whose blood that was shed on the stake became the perfect sacrifice and atonement. That was done just once, and only once will it be done. These martyrs of the northern kingdom are able to sing the song of Masha and of the Lamb because before they were killed, they were already in covenant with Alahayam. You know, there's some brethren that are waiting to go into the wilderness to get into covenant with Alahayam. Well, you'll be waiting in vain because it's not the southern kingdom going into the wilderness. No, it is not. So if you're waiting to go into the wilderness to then go into covenant with Alahayam to obey his commandments, then you have just sealed your fate to be destroyed. He had already written his laws on their inward parts, yet it was his purpose that they died. Now they are receiving their just reward because their deaths will not be in vain. Their deaths fulfilled Alahayam's prophecy. And now their song is fulfilling yet another of his prophecy. All right? The words to their song of redemption makes it clear that they are singing to Yahweh about all that he had done through his servants and through his son. His marvelous works, his great miracles that he performed on behalf of his people to deliver them, not just once, but twice out of the snare of the wicked. And when I said twice, I mean about the regathering, taking them into the wilderness on an exodus, a grand exodus, where the whole world is going to witness. He has revealed himself as King Malak of his people, truly. For a true king leads his people into battles and fights with them and for them. And oftentimes he had gone ahead of his people to fight their battles for them. But this Malak, no one can stand against him, for he is Hashaddai. He is the Almighty Yahweh. Shamawath chapter 14 verse 1. This is Exodus chapter 14 verse 1. And Masha said unto the people, fear you not, stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will show to you today. For Matzarayam, whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. Yahweh will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing he wants you to do but to hold your peace, believe in him, trust in him, have faith in him. And it's the same thing with the southern kingdom. When it's almost time for us to be regathered, he wants us to hold ground. He wants us to maintain our faith in him, to believe in him and trust in him, that no matter what agendas are being passed, that we will not falter. We will not slip and slide back into the enemy's camp, but we will maintain our stand that no matter what happens to us, we will serve Alahayam and him alone. All right? Same thing with the northern kingdom. They're going to have to be able to stand on faith, because this is what Alahayam wants out of his people, to believe him by faith. You see, the problem with our forefathers, they had no faith in him. They saw the miracles, but they had no faith in Alahayam. So now with this generation that he is regathering, either you have faith or you don't. And if you're operating in fear and doubt, you will have no faith. Because doubt and fear cancels faith. And this is what he wants us to understand. Without faith, it is impossible to please Alahayam. It's impossible to please Him. So we're now living in a in in a time where our faith is going to be tested, and at the same time our faith is going to blossom. So either you believe in Him or you don't. If you believe in Him, your faith is going to blossom, which will be pleasing to Him. But if it doesn't, then you're going to fall away and be destroyed. I don't think you're coming back in the second for the resurrection of life. If you fall away and you perish, you're doomed for destruction, eternal destruction. There's nothing more that Alahayam can say to us to convince us to believe in Him. If after all the things that we've read about and even experienced in our lives, and we still have fear, anxiety, and doubt, and all these negative emotions, then there's nothing else that He can do or say. And then what's going to happen? It's just going to perish. Verse 5 and 6 of Revelation chapter 16 revised. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened. And the 7 angels came out of the temple, having the 7 plagues, clothed in pure and white linen, and having their breasts girded with golden girdles. Now this is some interesting descriptions here. There's a tabernacle in heaven, which Masha was told to make a copy of on the earth, where Alahayam could dwell with his people. Alahayam revealed his sanctuary to Masha during the 40 days and 40 nights when he was up Mount Sinai, receiving the laws, commandments, and other instructions for Yashwa'al, for himself too. So we look at Shemawat chapter 25 verse 8, the book of Exodus chapter 25 verse 8. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, according to all that I showed you. After the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even so shall you make it. So we go all the way down to verse 40 of the same chapter. And look that you make them after their pattern, which was shown to you in the mount. So Masha saw the true tabernacle of Alahayam in heaven, the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven. Apocalypse of Abraham chapter 25 verse 6. And he said, Abraham, listen, when you see, what you see is the temple. It is a copy of that which is in the heavens. It is glorious in its appearance and beauty. I will give it to the sons of men to ordain a priesthood for my glorious name. I have ordained this for your people, especially those who will arise out of your lineage. So he gave us a copy of the tabernacle so that he can come and dwell in our midst, so that he could be in covenant with us. That is the covenant. Him dwelling in our midst. He becomes our Alahayam. We become his people. All right? And it was only given to Yashra'al, the 12 tribes. No other people. There is a tabernacle also called a temple in heaven. That is the original tabernacle. This tabernacle in heaven functions just like the tabernacle that was here on the earth, except for the blood sacrifices. It doesn't need to sacrifice anything up in the heavens. The sacrifices were for our sake because of sin. Offerings would be made, but the blood sacrifices were strictly for the 12 tribes of Yashra'al in order to be atoned and to present certain to carry out certain ordinances, in other words. All right? This way, Alahayam was able to dwell in their midst. However, in the heavens, there is no one there that needs atonement. Hence, the operation of the temple in heaven will be identical in every way to the one that was on the earth, except for the blood sacrifices. There's no need for shedding the blood in the heavens. On the earth, when when Hamashiach returns as king, there will be sacrifices again, but it will not be for atonement. No. It'll be like thanksgiving, peace offerings, those kind of sacrifices. But in the heavens, there's no need to offer blood up there. Everything in the heavens are perfect. Everything there is perfect. Everything is perfect. The praise is perfect. The angels there are perfect. Everything in the heavens are perfect. Or is perfect. It's the earth where everything is not perfect. And when the earth is renewed and the heavens are renewed, then all that will also be removed. No more blood, no more sacrifices. Because everything is new. We'll be living like the angels in heaven. I can't wait to get to that chapter. Everything will be completely new. Thanksgiving, we wouldn't need to offer up anything except the praises from our mouth. Free will offering, the praises from our mouth, the singing, what have you. All that because we will be perfected. We will be perfect in every way. So anything and everything that's coming from us will be perfect. But here's the issue. When Hamashiach comes, even though we are cleansed in the water, the sea of water, and we've eaten of the tree of life, we still have the situation with the Gentiles. Remember, they will not receive what we have until after the 1,000-year reign. And that's why some of them are going to join forces with the last Satan, Gadriel. Oh yeah. Some of them are going to change their hearts and ride with Gadriel, the last Satan that will be released from the bottomless pit. And that's why we will still have the blood sacrifices going on. But it will be for peace offering and thanksgiving, because they're going to have to bring their offerings to the city, Sayawan. But after the 1,000-year reign and that final Satan is cast into the lake of fire and all its minions and agents and what have you, then Alahayam himself is going to renew everything. And even the Gentiles now that would have or will have suffer through all of this and maintain their righteousness, they now will receive their reward, their eternal inheritance with us. And so there will be no more need to shed the blood of animals anymore. But we will still offer up our thanksgiving in the form of praises and singing, because it will be perfect praise, the sweetest song to his ears. Can't wait. All right, let's move on. We know that this is so based on the garment. We know that this is so based on the garments that the 7 angels were wearing when they came out of the tabernacle of testimony. They were dressed in priestly garments, in the same garment as Hamashiach when Yochanan saw him in his vision. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 1 verse 12. And I turned to see the voice that spoke with me. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks, and in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. And we know that Hamashiach is the high priest forever, and this is his priestly garment that he's wearing. And a high priest always needs priests. So in the tabernacle in heaven, there are angels that officiate in there. And these 7 came out of the tabernacle dressed in priestly garments. So they came out of the tabernacle to pour out the last 7 plagues upon the earth. This specific description, gird about the paps with a golden girdle, is the same as having their breasts girded with golden girdles. Hamashiach is the high priest forever after the order of Malachi Sadak. That is Melchizedek. That's the way how you pronounce it in English, but it's Malachi Sadak. And a high priest needs priests to help with the ordinances. Therefore, these angels dressed in similar garments to Hamashiach and coming out of the tabernacle of testimony is showing us that their role in heaven is that of a priestly capacity. They came out of the tabernacle to carry out their duty to pour out the 7 plagues upon the earth. That's what they came out to do. The tabernacle of testimony is the dwelling place of Alahayam, Yahweh, and it was closed up at some point to be opened at the time of the angels, who will exit to pour out the wrath of Alahayam. So these 7 angels, the tabernacle was closed, then it was open for the angels to exit, and then it was closed again, because it said that no one will be able to enter in to the tabernacle until these 7 plagues are completed. At which point of time was the tabernacle closed? We are not told when it was closed, but we can make a conjecture based on a few things that are said. What we do know for sure is the tabernacle was open the whole time. Then it was closed. Then it was reopened just for the 7 angels to exit. Then no one will be able to enter into it until after the 7 plagues are poured out. So let's look at the verse 7 and verse 8, the last 2 verses of Revelation chapter 16, revised. And one of the 4 beasts gave unto the 7 angels 7 golden vials full of the wrath of Alahayam, who lives forever and ever. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of Alahayam and from his power. And no man was able to enter into the temple until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. So there we see that the temple was closed after they received, the 7 vials. The temple was closed. It will be one of the 4 creatures who worships before the throne of Alahayam, who will be the one to hand the 7 priestly angels a golden vial each containing the wrath of Alahayam. As we consider the layout of the throne room, we know that the throne of Alahayam is there, as well as the throne of Hamashiach. He sits at the right hand of Alahayam, Yahweh. Then around the throne are the 4 creatures. Then in front of the throne are the 7-fold Rawak ol Alahayam, the spirit of Alahayam. 7-fold. Looks like 7 flames. Then there are the 24 thrones of the elders also in front of the throne. This is the tabernacle of testimony, the inner room, the Holy of Holies, so to speak, where Alahayam dwells. Don't forget, there's the altar as well in the throne room, and then you have the the platform, which looks like the sea of glass mingling with fire. It's going to be it. I can't wait to see it. It's amazing. It sounds amazing, right? During the time of his judgments being poured out, Alahayam at some point of time will close his tabernacle. It was not closed during the time of the seven seals. But we see that it was opened when the seventh trumpet was blown, which meant that sometime previously it was closed. Revelation chapter 11, verse 19. And once again, this is from the Bible, the Bible's chapters. And the temple of Alahayam was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. So at some point in time, it was closed. So it seems with these series of judgments that Alahayam closed his tabernacle. All right? He closed his tabernacle. I will see why in a minute. Then we see it being reopened again later. This is verse 5 that we just looked at previously. And after that, I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was open. This is Revelation 16, verse 5. Which means that it will be closed again after the seventh trumpet was blown. Why will Alahayam close his temple now during these last two batches of judgments? The seven trumpets and the seven vials. We know that the seven trumpets will usher in the great tribulation, and the seven vials will usher in the wrath to be poured out on the earth. The seven seals usher in, and they are ushering in, just, they call it the birth pangs. All right? So you have the birth pangs, the great tribulation, and the wrath of Alahayam. All right? These judgments are bringing about the end of the age. Therefore, temple worship will not be as it was before, as the temple will be closed during these crucial times. These are some critical times here where Alahayam is pouring out. Well, blowing the trumpets, getting his angels to blow the trumpets. Well, let's start with the seals being broken, but the temple was still open at that point of time. Then at some point in time, it was closed until the seventh trumpet. That's when it was open. And then it was closed again until these angels came out of the tabernacle of testimony, and then it was closed behind them until they poured out the seven vials. There was no other time in history when Alahayam required the sanctuary to be closed. The gates of Jerusalem were closed by order of Nehemiah, but not the temple. There was, however, another time when the temple of Alahayam was filled with his glory that no man was able to enter therein, much like the time when the angels will leave the temple to pour out his wrath, the seven vials. So we look at 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 1. Now when Shalamah, who is Solomon, had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahweh filled the house. And the priests could not enter into the house of Yahweh because the glory of Yahweh had filled Yahweh's house. And when all Habbanai Ol Yashraal saw how the fire came down and the glory of Yahweh upon the house, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worshipped, and praised Yahweh, saying, For he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Now this time, let me read this. At this time, the temple of Alahayam was filled with his glory that no man was able to enter. It was due to the prayers and sacrifices that Shalamah offered up to him, and it was so pleasing to him that he consumed the sacrifices and offerings with fire. Then he came down to dwell in his house. And he said to Shalamah that anyone that came, because he recorded his name there in Jerusalem, in that house, in that tabernacle. And he said, anyone that prayed towards this tabernacle, I will hear it because my name is recorded here. But the opposite will be happening in the future. As Alahayam Yahweh is already dwelling in his temple, he's up there in his temple. His glory will fill his temple in heaven, preventing his angels from entering in until his wrath is finished poured out. Alahayam is showing us that these particular judgments, the trumpets and the vials, will be so intense that he will not allow worship to carry on as usual until that particular moment of judgment is past. We see in the seventh trumpet, you hear the praises of the angels inside his tabernacle and on various levels of the heavens. And then you see it again after the seventh, the first six vials are poured out, the seventh vial, we see it again. The praises go up. We see this occurring when there will be a commotion in heaven at the seventh trumpet and another commotion at the seventh vial. And when I said commotion, I'm talking about when he says in Revelation chapter 11, and the temple of Alahayam was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. So we see this occurring again in the seventh vial. And that is the commotion, the praises and the noise and all the different things that are going on, because that particular batch of judgment is completed. Now begins the next batch until it's completed, forever. All of this, all of which is telling us that Alahayam will cease his heavenly hosts from their time of worshiping him until these trumpets are blown and the vials are poured out. What a state heaven will be, waiting in great anticipation for the final plagues to be poured out, and all evil is destroyed once and for all and forever. Now, this is going to be the last time that heaven, that his temple, his tabernacle will ever be closed. Even the tabernacle on the earth will be open 24, well, there will be no time, but it will be open forever. It will never be closed. There will be no night there, no darkness, no nothing. But he did it this way because this is some serious business that he's dealing with. Right? He's dealing with, because the wickedness that is upon the earth is so great. It's so great. And he is allowing us to know how serious these judgments are. If we don't perceive that these judgments are serious judgments, when we read these scriptures and we understand it from the revelation that is given to us, that he is going to close up his tabernacle then. He's going to close it up to show us how serious these plagues are. And when we can grasp that idea, then it makes us now think we got to get our house in order, because we don't want to be caught up in his wrath. Well, when I say his wrath, because none of our people will be remaining on the earth. When the southern kingdom is taken, the rebels will be finished, killed off. Same thing with the northern kingdom. When they make it into our land, the rebels will be already killed off. So we none of our people on the land when the seven vials are poured out, None of our people are on the land. None of the 12 tribes will be on the earth to face the wrath of Alahayam. The northern kingdom, yes, they'll be on the earth in our land, but they'll be dwelling in safety. They'll be surrounded by his glory. All right? But it wants us to know today that when we read and we understand what he is saying to us, then we need to do our due diligence to make sure that we're not destroyed. This is some serious business here. Some serious business. And that is the ending of chapter 16. Soon we will start chapter 17, has to do with the 144,000 saints of Yahweh. And I will go into even deeper detail with them as compared to the previous study that I've done, the 144,000 first fruits of Yahweh. We're going to go at it from Revelation point of view in chapter 17. So we're going to read the blessing for Yashrael from the Barayam, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. Yebarakak Yahweh wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yahanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh panayo alayak wa yashamlak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And I say, Shalawam, Shalawam, all praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.